If you play Minecraft, you'd probably know that building, well, can be kinda difficult. Maybe you find yourself building the same thing over and over again because it's what you're comfortable with, or you struggle to try something new because that's intimidating. But today, that is going to change, because I am on a mission to improve my Minecraft building skills. Now, I have a hardcore world that I've played on for over 5 years, and over that time, I've come a long way, mostly doing larger transformation projects, but there are just so many styles of building that I'm yet to try. So here's the plan. I'm gonna build a Minecraft house every day for the next week, but every house has to have a different theme. That way, I can build things I've never tried before and hopefully learn some new tips and skills along the way. And what better house to start off with than a dirt-style house? This has been Minecraft players' go-to starter base since the game was released. But let's see if I can actually make a dirt house that is suitable and nice to live in. So build number 1, a dirt house. So I started using dirt to mark out this rectangle shape, and I also wanted to add in a little something different, so I decided to add a circle tower that was going to kind of peek out the back of the building. I wanted this build to be super natural and also very accessible to do early game. So for the walls and the foundation of the building, I went with coarse dirt, and rooted dirt, and a little bit of podzol too. Then for the roof, I added moss, and honestly, I kept the shape pretty simple. It's just a gable style roof. Once that was all filled in, I also filled in the moss on the tower. And I just went with a simple point for this, but I kind of regret not making it a little bit taller. Once that was done, I decided to add a little podzol around the windows to give it sort of a trim. And now for the details. With moss, this was actually really easy because I just bone mealed the roof, which added a bunch of grass and azalea, which was nice. For lighting, I went with lanterns and some glowberries. Now for the interior, which I knew I was going to struggle with because I'm literally only using dirt blocks. To add variety in my flooring, I used my shovel to make these all into path blocks. And it actually reminds me of cork flooring that you find in houses. So I guess it kind of worked. Then I added some dirt steps up to this tiny platform in the tower, which is going to be used as the bedroom area. Raising this up also did create a little bit of storage underneath, where I was able to put some necessities such as a furnace, chests, and armor stand. And because I had all this space inside, I decided to make a small indoor wheat farm so that I could also be producing some food without having to leave my house. Then for the rug, I added some podzol and coarse dirt, with a cozy dirt fireplace using campfires. Then to finish it up, I added a couple of pets, some flower pots, and some other little decorative things, as well as a little pathway that leads up to the house as well. Okay, so looking around, I do think that this was not bad for my first house. It literally just uses dirt and dirt variants. I don't use any wood, any stone, so this is definitely something that's easy to do early game. And most importantly, it does prove that dirt huts can actually be kinda cute. Next up, we have a beach style house, which would be perfect to build if you're living on a beach or in a tropical area. So firstly, to set the scene, I added a little bit of sand and water surrounding it before adding some pillars because I did want this building to be slightly raised off of the ground. And this actually proved to be quite the challenge. I literally almost gave up on this 5 times, trying to figure out how to make it make sense being raised off the ground, and figuring out the dock around it was actually so hard. For the foundation of the dock and the house, I went with a mixed variety of wood, and then decided to do a tropical themed roof using bamboo and sandstone. Again, it is a pretty simple roof, but this is a small beach cottage, so I didn't want to go too crazy with it. Once the roof shape was blocked out, I needed to make sure we had a way into the project, so I added a small staircase. I added a window coming out one of the sides of the roof, and on the other added a small chimney. Once that was all done, I added some minor details such as some fencing and added a bamboo door and windows. Now it was on to the interior decorating. Because we didn't have a lot of space to work with, I added a loft, which would become the bedroom area. When I think of a beach hut, I think of a lot of clutter and mementos sort of placed around, so I wanted to incorporate that as best as I could, as well as making it feel cozy. For the bottom floor, I added a kitchen area and a sitting area. It also has a bunch of windows because I did want it to feel super airy. I think all the little details and knickknacks really helped it come together. And overall, for being someone who never builds interiors, I'm actually pretty happy with this. To finish up the outside, I also built some custom palm trees and just detailed the water a little bit. The next build I was pretty excited for because I've actually never made one, but I know they're pretty popular amongst Minecrafters, and that is an underground base. I started by blocking out a circle and then mining a few blocks down to create the space that would be visible from the surface level. As I was mining, I left some of the corners as dirt, and this actually gave me an idea to create farms here. I created 2 small staircases on either side so you could get in and out of the project, and then I filled the top with green glass. I also started designing the flooring using stripped oak wood and stripped birch wood. Then with the dirt areas I left, I ended up turning those into usable food farms. I added some barrels on the sides for storage and some trapdoors to clean it up a little. For the interior walls, I went with some more natural stones such as cobble and tuff, before adding some slabs in the floor to give the flooring a little bit more depth. I was tossing up what to do with the center, but because this felt very organic and farm-like, I decided to add a tree. And I think that was a really good choice because I love how it turned out. It was a good way to sort of tie the greens and the wood together. Then because we had basically no more space, I added 2 corridors on either side of the center. You could definitely expand these as much as you wanted, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to keep them pretty minimal. For room number 1, I went with a bedroom and tried to keep the green theme throughout. I actually wish I put emerald trim on this armor because that would look really cool. Okay, yeah, I had to go back and do that and it looks awesome. Then for the second side, I added some storage and another kitchen area. Once that was done, I added some lighting with lanterns and glowberries, and I'm actually super happy with how this turned out. Now when looking at it, the only thing I would change is making the outside a little bit more presentable. Now for our third house, we have a snowy cabin. To set the scene, I did add some snow and a small snowy mountain behind it. And this ended up being completely unnecessary because the house was so much larger than it. Now with this house, I went for a T-shaped base because I thought it would make for a more interesting roof. I used a variety of stone for this, including some unique blocks such as dried coral and a furnace. And then I added some spruce logs around the edges to create some depth. Once that was all blocked in, I started on the roof shape. I went with a similar shape to the beach hut, but this was much larger, so it made it slightly more complicated. I added some spruce stairs along the top to create some more detail, and then filled the roof in with snow. I tried to texture this slightly with a bit of white wool, quartz, diorite, and calcite. Then to create the look of icicles, I added end rods and white glass panes hanging off the trim. Both sides of this building had a lot of surface area, so I wanted to add a relatively large window. It's not my favorite thing, but I think it turned out alright. And you can't have a snowy cabin without a fireplace, so I went in and added a huge chimney on the exterior. Then to finish up the exterior, I added some ice and a mud pathway to make it look like the snow was worn in a little. Now onto the inside. I added again a very large fireplace on the inside, and then lined the entire floor with stripped oak logs. I realized I had literally no space down here for anything, so I had to add a second story, but it was going to be a little bit difficult. I tried to make everything blend together as much as they could, and I think it turned out fine. I added a small kitchen, some bookshelves, and a couch. Then it was on to the upstairs area. I added an extra fireplace up here, as long as a bed and some decorations. And originally I wanted to make a little hanging chandelier, but it ended up looking more like a fan, and I kind of just rolled with it. This house is probably my least favorite so far, just because I felt like I could have done more with the interior, but was struggling. Next up, we have a desert-themed house. Okay, so for this one, I feel like I had a really cool idea in my head, but then when I went to build it, I made it so small that it made it hard to literally do anything, but I decided to keep working through it. I started with a small sandstone foundation, literally way too small, then added a staircase up to the outdoor platform and a tower which would act as the living quarters. I decided to use spruce wood for detailing, and I actually think that matched with the sandstone really nicely. I added 2 small covered porches, and a roof on the main tower using campfires, slabs, and trapdoors. Then I added some pathing to make the area look worn in a little, and I actually used this design quite a lot because I think the colors all work really nicely together. In the main floor of the building, I added a bed and some storage. And even though it's desert, I did want to add a few azalea leaves just to help decorate it a little bit more. Then finished some minor detailing with cactus and a few crops, and that was basically it. If you wanted to make a really small, easy starter base, this would definitely be a go-to. Okay, this next one is definitely out of my comfort zone, but that's exactly why I wanted to try it, and this is a heart house. My goal for this one was just to be super pink, super cutesy, and that was the overall vibe I was going for. I started by framing out a 3D heart and filling that in with pink concrete and some pink glass for windows. I struggled trying to figure out how to actually enter the project, but went with a small cherry blossom staircase leading up to the back. This definitely was the craziest shape I've ever worked with, so trying to figure out where everything was gonna go was a little bit tough. I created an open loft area using cherry blossom slabs, and then added a bedroom and a kitchen area. Okay, I feel like I've added these every single time, but trust me, you can't go wrong. Plus, if you did actually want to build this in survival, it does add some practicality. The bottom floor was definitely the hardest, and I very much struggled in figuring out what I wanted to do. And for some reason, that ended up being a small wheat farm. After adding some lighting and some other small details, I wanted to do a little bit with the outside as well. I added some pathing, some cherry blossom petals, and made a custom pink tree mushroom looking thing. Then just added some lighting to the area and it was complete. For our 7th and final build, we have a Nether themed house. I thought this would be cool as you could build it either in the overworld or the Nether if you spawn proofed it, but my main goal with this was to build using Nether themed blocks. So I started out using a blackstone foundation, and then built up the walls using bone blocks and quartz. I definitely wanted to go for a bastion-inspired, castle-y theme vibe, which proved to be slightly difficult. I tried to build a roof on it, but that didn't work, and then decided to have this whole top area just be like an outdoor area. I also started off thinking I just wanted one tower at the back, but I felt like it looked funny and needed more, so I decided to add 2 more towers on either side. I used crimson wood for the small detailing and the roofs as well. I think the more that I added to this, the better it started to look. To bring use to the 2 towers, I actually added nether portals inside, which was a nice touch. And then the middle tower just had a ladder to actually get up to this area. Now for the inside. And I promise this one's gonna have more than a bedroom and a kitchen. For the flooring, I went with a mix of basalt. As I was doing this, I forgot about lighting, so I actually went back to the exterior and added some soul lanterns and some end rods. In the base level of the middle tower, I made an enchantment room. And I decorated it with some treasure items. For the right wing, I added a potion brewing station with lots of storage for supplies. Then the left wing just had a small bedroom and some other decoration in there as well. Then for the final touch, I added some obsidian, crying obsidian, and purple glass just cracking through the floor, as well as making some custom nether-inspired trees using nether wart blocks. I was very nervous about how this one was going to turn out, but I think it ended up being one of my favorites. Mostly because I think it was way more unique than some of the others. Now that all 7 houses are complete, I will say this was a challenging but fun process. Let me know what your favorite build was and also what themes I should make next. I highly recommend trying a challenge like this if you're looking to improve your building skills. I basically never build in creative, so this was a good way to help familiarize myself with all of the different blocks and items in the game. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.